Hello, I'm Sylvia.
I'm Tiffany.
I'm Chase.
And I'm Griffin.
And do you know what that function is?
It's the greatest integer function.
A parent function is the basis for the multitude of different ways you can express the function. The parent function of a greatest integer function is f of x equals the integer of x, which equals the greatest integer of x. The greatest integer function converts a real number into the largest integer that is less than or equal to x. The domain of the function would be the extent of numbers along the x-axis that the function reaches. This is the x-axis. The domain of the greatest integer function would be negative infinity to positive infinity. The range of a function would be the extent of numbers along the y-axis that the function graph reaches. This is the y-axis. The range of our function is z. Z is all integers, which means all numbers without decimals.
And now we're going to move on to the zeros as well as y-intercepts of the greatest integer function. The zeros of a function are points where the function intercepts the x-axis. They're also referred to as roots or x-intercepts. For the greatest integer function, the zeros are located right here. As far as the y-intercept of a function, the y-intercept is where the function crosses the y-axis. In a greatest integer parent function, the y-intercept is at the origin right here.
You find me somewhere over the ring.
Now we're moving on to the line of symmetry for the greatest integer function. And a line of symmetry is basically a line that separates a shape into two identically reflective parts. For the greatest integer function, it obtains no line of symmetry over the axis. It does not reflect it.
As Sylvia just explained, the greatest integer function has no line of symmetry, so making it neither even nor odd. An even function means its opposite input and the same output, and the graph is symmetrical across the y-axis. An odd function is opposite input and opposite output, and is symmetrical around the origin. In behavior is what the line looks like off the graph, better known as the limit. As x goes to positive infinity, y goes to positive infinity. As x goes to negative infinity, y goes to negative infinity.
Alright, so next we're going to talk about continuity. Continuity is basically just whether a line is continuous or not. This is easy enough to remember. But a good trick to help you check if something is continuous or not is just take your pencil or your finger and try to see if you can draw it without lifting your finger up at all. So let's try that with the greatest integer function. Okay, so let's start at 0 and we go this way, but we have to jump off of the graph in order to continue the graph, so the line is not continuous for greatest integer.
I love you.
Next we're going to talk about one-to-one correspondence. One-to-one correspondence is basically just whether the inverse of an equation is a function or not. A good way to test this out is the horizontal line test. Take your finger or your pencil, whatever you want to use, and put it sideways and see if there are multiple places on the graph where it intersects with your finger. So if we put our finger here, we can see that there are multiple places all the way from 0 right up until 1 where we're being intersected. This shows that it does not have one-to-one correspondence.
Where trouble melts like a lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, and the dream that you dare to why.
And now we're going to show you a few photos of how the greatest integer function applies to the real world.
Math is all around you!
How is the greatest integer function going to affect you?
Thank you for watching our presentation.
Any questions?